Hello, welcome to this episode of Women in Engineering Success Stories from STEM Professionals. In this episode, I will be talking with 3 distinguished professionals from Stanley Consultants. We have with us Katerine Fath Despinoy, Vice President and Interim Water Market Leader at Stanley Consultants, who will delve into the significance of mentorship, active involvement in professional societies, and the value of diverse viewpoints in solving engineering challenges. Next, we'll have Sarah Zarzecki. She's the Transportation Design Department Manager, who will share her inspiring journey through the engineering world and the development of her distinct leadership style. And finally, we have Melissa Edsill Tiedemann. She's a Business Development Manager and Senior Environmental Planner, who will bring a unique perspective on her journey as a non-engineer navigating the complexities of engineering firm over 2 decades. I'm your host, Tiffany Tichy, a senior mechanical engineer, STEM advocate, TEDx international speaker, and an internationally recognized author of children's books, which includes What Can I Be? STEM Careers from A to Z, and the STEM Crew Kids Adventures series. I also host the Read It Right radio show on WDRB Media. I'm the owner of Thrive Edge Publishing and owner publishing consultant of Inspired Authors Publishing. Before we go on here, I'd like to recognize our sponsor for today's episode, Stanley Consultants.
For over a century, Stanley Consultants has been at the forefront of engineering innovation, relentlessly committed to improving lives and building a resilient future. We collaborate with government agencies, utility providers, and private industries to solve some of the most complex challenges in energy, infrastructure, and more. We put people first, leveraging cutting-edge technology and multidisciplinary expertise to deliver differently and exceed expectations. Be a part of our journey to create a connected, sustainable, and enriched world for all. Get in touch with our Stanley Consultants team today.
Today, I have with me Kate Despinoy, Sarah Zarzecki, and Melissa Edsill Tiedemann. And I want to say welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, Kate, Sarah, and Melissa, welcome to the show. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the listeners and explain what you do on a daily basis?
Sure, I'll start us off. So I'm Kate Despinoy. I have 16 years of engineering consulting experience, 6 of which have been with Stanley Consultants in their water market. And I've served in various roles in my career thus far, from being a designer and engineer to a project manager and more recently business development. And I've worked in various areas of consulting, including land development, municipal engineering, federal, and water and wastewater. And I'm currently serving as a client service manager and project manager. So I bring new business into the water market, but I also continue to manage and stay very technically involved on certain projects.
I can go next. Hi, I'm Sarah Zarzecki. I'm a civil engineer with about 20 years of experience in the transportation engineering industry. I began my career designing trails, intersections, and highways, and now I lead Stanley Consultants' Colorado transportation team. My daily activities include project management, team management, business development, and client coordination.
I'm Melissa Tiedemann. Much like Kate, I've kind of migrated my way through the profession, I guess. I am the only one, I guess, on here that's not an engineer, but I have been working in the engineering industry for over 20 years. I started my career working for a municipality as part of their planning and zoning department, but we worked hand in hand with the engineering department there. So I kind of feel like my entire career I've been working with engineers. I am a business development manager with Stanley, but I'm also an environmental planner. And that's the department that I work with here mostly. I've been here for 17 years in April. So it's been a trip, but it's really hard for me to put a good finger on what I do here on a daily basis, because I will say that no 2 days are really the same. But I do mostly handle, much like Kate, contracts, meeting with clients, trying to bring in new business, trying to keep those clients happy so that we can get repeat business. And then also, on the other days, I'm also leading projects, the environmental lead for a lot of federal projects, So, I mean, that's why I guess I've been here for 17 years is because no 2 days really look the same.
And I understand that as far as you never know what the day's going to be like from a database. So thank you for sharing that, ladies, as far as your, daily basis, because it does change. I get that from my experience in this industry itself. So Melissa, while you're still there, let's talk about it. Can you share your initial challenges you face as a female non-engineer in an engineering company?
Well, I will say the challenges that I faced have been very similar to those of other women, engineer and non-engineer, in any STEM career. As much as we would like to say that there's no bias, I do feel like there is an sometimes unconscious bias. It's not intentional, I don't think it's malicious. It's just, it does tend to influence people's opinion of, oh, they see a woman, they don't technically, or they don't think that you're technically capable sometimes of doing that work. Quickly, I'll illustrate that. When I first started my career working for a municipality, I was part of the planning and zoning staff. And a lot of times I would get to the service counter to meet with a person from the public to answer their question. And they were like, no, we don't need the secretary. I need a planner. And I'm like, well, I am a planner. No, I need a real planner.
And that's good to know because I've been also known, like you said, from a non-engineer to being an engineer, it's something about being considered an admin and taking notes and all that. And it's that stigma. And so thank you for sharing that example because it does come with it when it comes down to that experience itself. As we go into it, as far as continuing on, Kate, while I have you there, how has seeking out mentors at different stages of your career impacted your professional growth? And what advice would you give to finding the right mentor?
Sure. So it's very important to seek out mentors throughout your career because you never stop learning. And for me, I've found supporters to seek input from that have helped me build my confidence and then also probably my longevity in my career. So my mentors have changed and grown in number as I've moved along in my career. They've helped me from a technical, managerial, and then also a sales growth perspective. In terms of advice, I think it's very important. I think it can be intimidating for particularly younger members, but you should ask your boss to help you find a mentor within your company. More importantly, I also think it's very, very involved for younger engineers, female engineers to get involved in their local and professional society or, national professional societies. Many companies, including Stanley, offer mentorship. And so I think it's really great to take on that opportunity. And then from a professional society standpoint, they also have these programs and can help cultivate future leaders and women engineers. So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there that people can take advantage of. It's just asking the right person.
That's it. Asking the right person. I mean, and the step is asking. I think a lot of them don't even do the asking part. So I think that's awesome that you said, just ask and see if they would be willing to be a mentor. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's some great points. Now, Sarah, let's talk about this engineering, this career. What inspired you to pursue a career in engineering? And how did you realize it was the right path for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people end up taking a pretty circuitous route to engineering. And fortunately for me, I think it was a pretty straightforward path, and I'm really thankful for that. Growing up, I had really always gravitated towards math and science and really understanding how things work. I still like understanding how things work and, why we're doing the things we're doing, but engineering at its core is problem solving. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to attend an engineering outreach program, and it just really solidified what I wanted to do. I was really able to see the practical applications of civil engineering. And for me, it's a really tangible type of engineering, and other types are a little less tangible and more math and science based. But for me, this is what works. And I could see and where that was going to head me through the rest of high school and then through college as well.
That's awesome. And I love how you tapped into starting early by doing those engineering outreach. I think that is what's key, especially when we talk about our parents and getting the kids into earlier. So you was exposed to it early by participating in that. And I think that's what's key to help our kids and then guide them. So I'm glad you shared that experience. Now, going back to Melissa, in what ways have you contributed to projects or teams, and what unique capabilities did you bring to it?
So having worked in the engineering industry for over 20 years, I've seen a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of lessons learned, good and bad. So in addition to my background has really started with like brownfields redevelopment. So, doing the early on assessments and studying of the soils and coupling that with my urban planning experience, I got kind of thrown into learning how to help municipalities and help private entities look for different types of grant funding and seeing what projects that they could go after various types of federal, state, local grant funding. And so that's something that I did when I worked for the municipality. And then I've kind of carried and honed that skill as I've come through the engineering consulting career that I've had. In addition to that, learning how to help with environmental compliance from an industry standpoint, but then also helping different projects that Stanley's doing come into compliance with different federal, state, local regulations as far as, coming into compliance with those. And then also, writing the large environmental assessment documents that are sometimes required depending on the type of project. So I feel like, again, wearing the multiple hats, is why I get the calls to join the larger, more complex projects here, especially at Stanley.
And it's a good thing. You got a whole portfolio of skills. And so that's amazing to have that, be multifaceted. So that's amazing that you have that, that you share that. So thank you for all that you're doing as far as the skills that you bring to the table. Now let's go to Kate. Let's talk about professional societies. Can you share how being involved in professional societies early in your career opened up opportunities for learning and advancement?
Sure. So earlier I mentioned that professional societies are a great place for finding mentorship, but they're also a great opportunity to develop your leadership skills and show those strengths to peers and even our potential clients in our field. So I think joining committees is very important, particularly one that interests you and one that you want to learn about. And you don't necessarily have to enter as an expert, but it'll definitely help you grow into one.
Do you have some examples just to throw out there, some professional organizations that maybe people may not know about that maybe you can, participate in that maybe they can look into as well?
Sure. So speaking to water and wastewater, every state or combination of states has a local AWWA chapter. And so you can get involved on a local level, each with individual committees. And then you can get involved on a national level and participate in various state and national conferences. Additionally, on the west side, Water Environment Federation, a lot of local chapters. And every year there's a fairly large conference called WEFTech, where you learn about the latest technologies and things that different consultants are doing out there in that space. All with committees, all with engineers who's been in different careers and from young to senior. So great opportunity to mingle with other peers and leaders in the space.
Love it. Yeah, I was like, dive deeper. Tell us which ones. We name them, but so thank you for going dive deeper with them because there's so many out there. So it's good to know, learn more about that one that you just discussed. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Sarah, can you discuss some of the key challenges you faced in your engineering career and how you've overcome them?
Sure. I'm going to highlight a couple. I think our industry, especially on the consultant side, can really demand a lot of us. And those of us that are type A can be more inclined to keep giving and giving. And ultimately that becomes non-sustainable. So I've really had to continually work to reprioritize and being able to identify when things aren't working and pivot is not only good for me, but it also shows to others that it's okay to adjust and continue to balance. So I think that is, relevant to really everyone. And another challenge I've encountered more recently, and this is kind of speaking to the mentorship role that Kate has mentioned too, and why it really is so important. As you get further and further into your career and you advance in leadership roles yourself, the pool of potential mentors really seems to decrease. And so I really had to work through connecting with other professionals and make a really concerted effort to have that resource for myself and finding that sounding board within the industry But going through that, it also makes it so that you understand how important it is to give back to the role of the world of engineers that are coming up and need that mentorship as well.
That's it. I think that's the important part too, paying it forward because you've been through the experience. So why not give back and become a mentor as well? So thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Now let's go back to Melissa. Melissa, reflecting on your 2 decades of experience in engineering industry, you've been a part in the industry itself. What projects do you reflect on as highlights so far and why?
That's a lot. I have to say there's probably 2 that really stand out as kind of pivotal, I will say. And first was one of the projects that first came to me working for that municipality. It happened to be the municipality that I grew up in. I left and went to college, came back, started working for the city. This problem, it was brownfield redevelopment. It came to the city as from a group of concerned citizens. And I was first taken aback because I had grown up in this community and did not even know that this site existed. And then to hear these community members that were so passionate about doing something about this site, really, it alarmed me that A, I didn't realize that this site had existed, and B, what a problem it really was. So you had this large industrial site, 22 acres under roof, that was nestled in a very high minority, low income area. And when the industry was essentially done with this building, they just walked away. They declared bankruptcy and just left the building there. It was in shambles. Parts of it had fallen in. And it was literally in these people's backyards. It was adjacent to a very quaint little stream and was neighboring one of our municipal golf courses. And no one really knew it was there or, failed to do anything about it. So when this community group kind of got together and brought it to the city, we're like, yep, obviously we need to do something about this. And so the further we got into it, again, it was a very large site. The city had some EPA brownfields assessment money, so we assessed as much as we could. But the more we got into it, the more the situation became concerning. There was an underground plume. It was leaching away from the site. And so eventually the city had to say, like, wow, we are out of funding and approach the EPA. And the EPA actually had to step in and finish that assessment. But going to those community meetings and seeing those people's faces and realizing, wow, this is my backyard. These are these people's backyards. They've had to deal with this for, years and years, and nothing has been done about it. And it angered me. It engaged me. And from that point on, I was like, yeah, this cannot continue to go on. We need to do something about this. And so that really kind of, not to be coy, but lit that fire in my belly about moving forward and helping these communities, seek this funding so that they can go after sites just like this. And real quick, the second site that really kind of was that pivotal moment in my career was I had recently moved to the area away from the community I was working in, and I hadn't been here very long. And then this flood of 2008, and it devastated the community that I had, recently moved to. And you join in because it's part of the community, right? You sandbag, you help people move things to higher ground, you do what you can. I directly was not impacted by this flood, but you see these people and it becomes so real. It's not just something you see on the TV or people talk about in the newspaper. It is, you're knee deep in it, literally knee deep in it. And so for that point then, and the great thing about that project was I got to see it I'm seeing it come full circle. I sandbagged, I helped people move their materials to higher ground, but now as part of the team at Stanley, I get to help be part of the solution, building those pieces of that flood protection so that this doesn't happen again. So for me, that's just exciting to be part of that and just, very proud moment in my career.
Yes, it's always good to see the results of it and see what happens of it. And while you're going in, it's like it's an experience in itself. So thank you for sharing those two experiences of projects to us. So let's go to Kate. Kate, In your experience, how to do diverse perspectives in problem solving lead to better outcomes in engineering projects?
Sure. So I think the saying that, two heads are better than one really is the case, specifically when people are not like-minded. And that's very applicable to how we problem solve on engineering projects. So I think providing the best solutions for our clients is our key goal in engineering consulting. And therefore, we need to bring more ideas to the table to do this. Every client and every problem is very different. And bringing more viewpoints will help us bring more innovation. It also reduces blind spots. I think that's probably the biggest thing you can find when you're just thinking on your own is not realizing some different perspectives that the client might be seeking. So typically, really early on in a project during a planning phase, we like to bring together teams to kind of look at all aspects early on, from how we should design and then throughout, in terms of how we can value engineer and bring both great engineering value, but keep costs in perspective for our clients.
Yes, that's always important. Definitely when you talked about, when it comes to your client and the cost. So definitely important when it comes to. So thank you for sharing that, the whole problem solving side of things to lead. Sarah, talk to us. How has your leadership style evolved over time, and what key experiences shaped this evolution?
Yeah, as your career progresses, you're really exposed to a lot of types of leadership styles, both your leaders and your mentors. And I've been able to really identify kind of what resonates with me and apply those elements. And similarly, what I didn't really enjoy and try to avoid that. I kind of relate it a little bit to parenting for those of you who are parents. People have a lot of advice on how to be parents, and you just pick and choose the things that resonate with you, and that becomes kind of your style. I kind of do that with leadership too. Communication with my team and leaders will always be what drives my leadership style. Having an understanding of where people are coming from and how the situations change really provides me that opportunity to assess, problem solve, and respond with empathy and grace. I think every time things kind of pivot, it's, when there's different people coming into the workforce, or, COVID, I think, was a really big change for a lot of us that were trying to manage teams remotely. I've got a lot of younger staff coming in. So kind of some generational changes there, and just different communication styles and preferences, and really being able to blend those and get those to work for the entire team have kind of been the bigger pieces of input that have shaped.
Yes, it's awesome. I mean, it's true. It's constantly changing, and there's so many different dynamics that's played a role with it. So you've hit some key aspects of it, of the changes and how we've had to deal with it. So thank you for sharing that. Now, these are kind of the last questions for you guys, to you ladies. So Melissa, as we come back to you, how do you see the role and perception of non-engineers evolve in the engineering sector over the last 20 years?
That's a lot to bite off. But I will say that, I guess I'm at an advantage, in my opinion. A lot of the people in the office that I work in are not engineers. We have a few, but I guess, when I look at the other offices within Stanley, they're heavy on the design engineering role. And here we're more, scientists, geologists, planners. So I think it's a little bit harder for me to even see how it's evolving, because for here, we very much, view ourselves differently than other people may view us. But I will say that the projects are becoming far more complicated than they have been in the past. There's more regulations that you have to meet. Obviously, we're being more sensitive to the environment. And so great, we have a whole team here that can help you with that. And so it is taking that multidisciplinary team to accomplish, these goals, because, it is, again, like Kate and Sarah have mentioned, it takes all these different members working on their own tasks, but you need to be working on these collectively so that the schedule keeps moving forward, because clients don't like it when your project stops, so that each member can work on their specific task. So, and that's the good thing about Stanley, and a lot of engineering companies. They've really evolved into this solutions-oriented consulting role that extends far beyond just design engineering.
That's good. So let's go to Kate. Could you discuss a memorable mistake or challenge you made in your career and how you turned it into a shareable learning experience?
Sure. I recall it's definitely not my worst, but it's probably one of my first. When I was right out of college, I was learning to do site grading, and I thought essentially putting a building on sort of a self-created peak of a mountain 4 feet above all the other buildings was the best solution for draining, water away from the building. I remember, my boss reviewing my design, and there was a lot of rapid blinking going on. Since then, I've made, probably many more and much bigger mistakes. But I think the important and shareable advice in this is that I've learned not to beat myself up too badly when this happens, because it takes away from the joy in your career. So, mistakes are going to happen. And what I'm really working on is how to better react, respond, self-correct, and then additionally think about how do I adjust my situation, my team's situation, to find opportunities and give room to catch some of these bigger mistakes based on some of these past lessons learned.
That's good. That's good. Definitely. Everybody, we all have made mistakes. So learning from them and your perspective, I love how you shared that. Now, Sarah, is there one final piece of advice that you could give to young women who are considering engineering as a career?
Yes, get exposure. There are so many different types of STEM outreach and enrichment activities now. Don't be afraid to reach out to industry either. This may be more applicable to a collegiate level, but if you're not able to find a formalized internship program, consider job shadows, just reaching out, seeing if you can get a glimpse of a day in the life of. I think what we really want to emphasize is that we're really willing to give back and to find a way to usher in the next round of future engineers.
That's amazing. Great advice. I think that's some great advice. So as we close out, thank you so much for being great guests. Does anyone have any ways that maybe you might want to share how people maybe can find you or get in touch with you? I always try to leave out with that. Is there any way that you would like to share?
Sure. I would say LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. I think as our name maybe be popping up on this podcast, you can pretty easily find us associated with Stanley Consultants.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Everybody agrees. Love it. Y'all check everyone out on LinkedIn. That is the spot to go, especially for professionals. So thank you, ladies, for being great guests. Y'all are amazing and definitely gave some great gems. And I hope our listeners have been taking notes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss our upcoming episodes featuring interviews with inspired women engineers, discussions about industry trends, and much more. Go to womeninengineeringpodcast.com where you will find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, may your engineering endeavors be as remarkable as the women whose stories we'll share. Stay curious, keep innovating, and engineer a better future.